Alex Pereira truly has the chance of becoming the greatest of all time in the UFC, in the MMA space, and he has the chance to do it by the end of 2025. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how this happens. But first, I need two things from you. Number one, I want to know, do you guys think Alex Pereira has the chance to become the greatest of all time in this sport? And if he does, how does he achieve it? Number two, before I get into it, hit the like and subscribe button. Can you please show this channel some love? Like, we've been kicking ass lately. And frankly, I feel just a little bit underappreciated. All right, so let's face some facts here. He has a tall task ahead of him, right? UFC 313, he is facing Magomed Anklaev. And a lot of people think that Magomed Anklaev is the kryptonite to Alex Pereira in the division, right? In the light heavyweight division. And the reason they cite for that is Magomed Ankalaev's wrestling. And of course he has that wrestling. But what he has said, which everybody seems to say, is that he's going to stand and knock out Alex Pereira. Which, like, Pereira can be knocked out. There's no doubt about that. He can be defeated. There's no doubt about that either. But, dude, like, wrestling isn't a huge part of Magomed Ankalaev's game. Like, he prefers to stand and strike. And if he stands and strikes with Alex Pereira, like, that tips the scales hugely in favor of Alex Pereira. Like, there's no doubt about it that if Magomed Ankalaev gets cracked with, like, any big shot from Pereira, he's going to be in a world of trouble. So, like, his whole thing needs to be, and by the way, he fought Jan to a draw, right? And leg kicks from Jan were doing tremendous damage. Like, he hates leg kicks. And so, whose leg kicks are worse? Jan Blachowicz or Alex Pereira? A lot of people say it's Alex Pereira. Again, never been leg kicked by either of them. I hope I never endure that. That sounds like the worst thing of all time. Maybe not the worst thing, but, like, sounds awful. Nevertheless, Alex Pereira's seem to be worse of the two. And Alex Pereira beat Jan Blachowicz, whereas Magomed Ankalaev took it to a draw. Now, a lot of people thought Magomed Ankalaev won that fight. Nevertheless, here we are today. He is challenging Alex Pereira. Now, the other component to this is that the judges judge things based off of damage, right? And so, on the feet, I think Alex Pereira clearly has the advantage. It could be close, but if Alex Pereira does damage on the feet, gets taken down by Ankalaev, and nothing happens to him, like, because when he's on the ground, he does stay pretty safe, right? He keeps things tight. People don't land a lot of shots, and then he waits for a moment so that he can get back to his feet. Right, so that's kind of what I think is going to be the strategy. I think that's what's going to be what happens. So, first step, of course, for Alex Pereira to become the greatest of all time is to defeat Magomed Ankalaev in this fight. And I think a lot of people are thinking that Magomed Ankalaev is gonna get the win. And I truly think that he has the best chance out of anyone in the division. He's definitely the toughest fight for Pereira in the division, but by no means is this a foregone conclusion. By no means is this an unwinnable fight for Pereira, right? Not only that, but the dude's been active compared to Ankalaev. Like, Ankalaev's fought, what, twice in the last 12 months? He's fought 4 times. You know what I mean? He's got that championship status. So, like, there's so many things going for Alex Pereira in this sense. And then, if and when he wins that fight, the next thing we got to think about is, okay, what's next? Because as of right now, light heavyweight division has been cleared. For the most part, right? Like, there are a couple of names left where you could raise your hand and say, okay, well, I have some questions. But as of right now, like, he's beat Yuri twice. He beat Jamal Hill in splendid fashion. He's beat Khalil Roundtree. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? He will have beaten Magomed Ankalaev if he ends up victorious there. Then the only people who could kind of raise their hand, and they're fighting very soon, is Jan Blachowicz and Carlos Ulberg. Those are the only two names where there's still kind of a question mark. Like, if Ankalaev loses, those are the only two people at light heavyweight where it's like, okay, you know, let's see what happens, right? Jan, it was a split decision. So he can raise his hand and say, hey, you know, you got lucky. You got gifted a win against me. Let me fight for the title, right? That's assuming he beats Olberg. But he's getting older, coming off of shoulder surgery. Like, a lot of bad things happen after that type of thing. Olberg, he's been crushing it lately, right? And so once again, if he beats Jan, he raises his hand and be like, hey, you haven't beat me yet. And that's a pretty interesting fight stylistically. But those are really the only two sort of like, I wonder what would happen, right? Those are the only two names left in the division that people are kind of like, well, okay, let's see. We could do that after Ankalaev, clearly. So what do they do next? It all depends on Jon Jones. It all depends on Jon Jones. What happens with Jon Jones in the next 6 to 8 months, right? Does he fight Tom Aspinall? If the answer is no, he probably vacates the heavyweight belt. And frankly, the way he looked against Stipe, I would be okay with that. I'd be okay with him being like, you know what, I'm done. You know, a younger me probably would have been okay taking on Tom Aspinall, but I just don't have the speed anymore. I don't have the same abilities I once did, because he looked slow. I mean, Stipe looked worse, but he looked slow. His sequences didn't look as sharp. You know, I don't see him beating Tom Aspinall. Maybe he does, right? I mean, there is that small feeling inside me that's kind of like, he's gonna make this look effortless, right? He's gonna take Aspinall down somehow, or get him in a choke, or do something to him that like finishes the fight kind of the same way it did with Gunn. Somehow I feel like he's going to completely walk through Aspinall. But then the other part of me is like, ain't no way, right? Aspinall's got 20 pounds on him. Nevertheless, it all depends on what Jones does. If Jones sticks around, fights Aspinall, wins, right? Then they do a super fight between him and Alex Pereira. If Alex Pereira wins that, he becomes the greatest of all time. If he beats Jon Jones, he becomes the greatest of all time, right? If he beats Jon Jones at heavyweight. The other thing that they could do if Jones is, vacates or gets stripped or whatever the case may be, then Alex Pereira moves up and he fights Tom Aspinall. Once again, extremely difficult fight stylistically for Alex, but if there's anyone who can get the job done, it's Alex, right? Pereira is the guy who can get the job done against Jon Jones or Tom Aspinall at heavyweight. Now again, this is not a certainty, of course. He has to win either of those fights or both of them. If he does that, to me, there's no discussion, right? And if a lot of people come at me and be like, oh, well, you know what? He hasn't done enough. He hasn't been in the UFC long enough. He doesn't have enough title defenses. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. Look, right now, I wouldn't put Pereira in my top 10. I wouldn't, right? He's probably in the top 20 right now, but definitely not the top 10 yet. The thing is, once he does, like after he's cleared the light heavyweight division, first of all, he won the middleweight championship, right? In record time. That's one thing. He will now have cleared the light heavyweight division, right? Then he goes up to heavyweight and wins a third belt off of either the greatest of all time in Jon Jones, which like steroids to me that excludes him, but consensus seems to be that Jones is number one, right? Or one of the most dangerous heavyweights of all time in Tom Aspinall. If he beats either one of those guys, to me, like that's it, right? To me, that's it. Like there's no more that needs to be said or done, because he's done what he's done in such a short amount of time. Now the other possibility to me, which like he wouldn't be the greatest of all time, but he could still put his name in like the top 10. Like if he loses to Ankalaev, right? Which like that's a possibility. And then let's just say he says, okay, you know what? Let me go up to heavyweight. Right? I don't want to make these cuts anymore. Let me go up to heavyweight. So he goes up to heavyweight. I think he beats most people in the top 10. With I think he would have some trouble with people like Curtis Blades. He'd probably have some trouble with Jailton Almeida. And then we look at like Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones, right? But other than that, I think he can beat almost anyone at heavyweight. Those four would give him problems. I think he loses to Aspinall. I think he loses to Jones, for sure. Nevertheless, if he can win, if he goes up to heavyweight, that would be a huge thing. And if he can get a championship there, yeah, his name would definitely be in the top 10 conversation. But if he beats Ankalaev, goes up to heavyweight, and wins the heavyweight belt, to me, that puts him greatest of all time. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.